the south of the south, a place near the ends of the earth. Here, the sun shines brighter, the mountains touch the sky, and the plains are endless. In the midst of this earthly paradise, predators give no respite. One false step, and it's the end. Birds watch everything from above, flooding the sky with their beauty. On the coasts, another battle for survival is being fought. It is time to leave for the immensity of the sea. This is Patagonia, a wild kingdom in the south of America. Patagonia is a region of almost 2 million square kilometers located in the extreme south of South America, between Argentina and Chile. If God, Mother Nature, or any deity had wanted to create a magical place on Earth, where an explosion of life would occur, that would be Patagonia. To the west, on the Pacific coast, the imposing Cordillera de los Andes, with an average altitude of 2,500 meters above sea level, are just a foreshadowing of the majesty of this region. Crossing this impregnable mountain range full of snow-capped peaks, glaciers, and active volcanoes, the Patagonian forests open up, representing a 45-kilometer strip of green and leafy trees, fed by the humidity coming from the Andes. Crossing the cold mountainous forests, the infinite Patagonian plateau appears, with landscapes full of life as far as the eye can see, and the waters of the Atlantic Ocean cover the plain. The diversity of the Patagonian climate is a fertilizer for the wildlife of this southern corner. Patagonia has temperate, subpolar, humid, and semi-arid climate zones, which provide the perfect habitat for hundreds of animal and plant species. Patagonia is home to more than 500 animal species, including 400 species of birds, 60 species of mammals, amphibians, fish, and reptiles. In addition to wildlife, the plant kingdom has also managed to thrive in one of the most teeming regions on the planet, with more than 2,500 species of algae, lichens, ferns, and grasses. Patagonia's springtime abundance is, quite simply, a sight for sore eyes, with green fields, colorful flowers, and life springing up from even the smallest nook and cranny. With Patagonia turned into a gigantic orchard, one of the animal species having the time of their lives is the Patagonian maras. After surviving a difficult winter full of scarcity, spring is a godsend for the maras, and with so many leaves, flowers, seeds, and fruits everywhere, the mara know how to celebrate the arrival of a new season. The maras spend up to half their day feeding, searching through the abundant vegetation for a tasty snack. Although for the mara, the abundance of spring seems like a dream come true, it is important to never stop being alert, because this beautiful dream can quickly turn into a nightmare if there is a predator on the prowl. Species that can make the mara's hair stand on end are, especially, the puma, the fox, and the threatening birds of prey from the sky. With its not at all frightening 75 centimeters tall and 14 kilograms in weight, the mara does not see violence as a way to escape from predators, so there's only one way to survive the attack of ferocious creatures, and that is to live in community. Maras tend to live in large herds that increase their chances of survival, especially when foraging for food. Having more than one pair of eyes to spot predators is a great help. Upon spotting a possible threat, maras do not think twice and use their long legs to run straight for the burrow. Despite not looking particularly athletic, maras are capable of running up to 80 kilometers per hour and are often compared to species such as antelopes. As they are the fastest rodents in the world, the option of running to the safety of their burrow will be the preferred and most profitable one, as long as it is close by, as maras tire very quickly. They may look gentle and loving, but the maras, an easy prey, will not be. Just as they get tired of running long distances, for the mara the single life of walking from flower to flower is exhausting, so they prefer monogamy, being both female and male, extremely faithful. In fact, maras only replace their partner in the event of death, a true example of fidelity in the middle of Patagonia. Of course, when happily ever after can mean forever, the task of keeping the relationship alive is a challenge for the male, who follows the female literally everywhere. To keep the meddlesome bachelors away from his female, the male Mara will use an unorthodox but effective method, marking the ground with urine, feces, and secretions from his glands. While the Maras enjoy their romantic life as a couple from the relative safety of the prairie, a majestic bird solitarily takes to the skies, the Andean condor. Weighing up to 15 kilograms and with a wingspan of more than 3 meters, the Andean condor is one of the most fascinating southern creatures. With a plumage as black as night and a whitish frill around its neck, the condor transmits respect and at the same time terror among the rest of Patagonia's wild inhabitants. Although with its large talons and fearsome beak, one might think that the Andean condor is on the lookout for a carefree Mara. To take it to the heights and make it its lunch, this is nowhere near happening. The Andean condor is a 100% scavenger bird that does not bother to hunt when it can wait patiently for the Patagonian wildlife to put food on its table. With an immense plain full of wild species, it is only a matter of time before the condor catches that succulent smell of fresh meat, or spots a fallen animal from the heights. For the condor, the secret to never run out of food is patience, as this bird travels up to 200 kilometers a day looking for something to put in its stomach. When it finds a victim of Patagonia's hectic wildlife, the Andean condor begins to feast. Being able to eat up to 5 kilograms of meat in a single meal, there is no time to waste to satiate its voracious appetite. On the menu of the Andean condor are usually guanacos, rheas, deer, armadillos, and basically any animal that is passed on to a better life and is in its path. Although the Andean condor is a scavenger par excellence, this does not mean that sometimes it should not struggle for its food. The Patagonian ecosystem will not always be so generous as to present it with food on a silver platter. Sometimes when the wild puma has done its job well, obtaining a juicy prey, the Andean condor appears to take a substantial tax, leading to dangerous altercations in which, against all odds, the scavenger ends up keeping the best part of the prey. Although the condor is usually the first guest to arrive at the feast when an animal has departed this world, sometimes foxes and other scavengers such as cathartes come first. Here, the condor has no problem asserting its position as the dominant scavenger and runs at everyone to claim what is apparently its own. Sometimes, skipping all diet, the Andean condor eats so much that its large wings are unable to take off again, so the bird has to stay on the ground, at least until it feels a little relieved after such a feast. After a good meal, which will keep its stomach full for several days, the Andean condor lives up to its name and usually flies in the direction of the high peaks of the Andean Cordillera. Usually, a ridge more than 4,000 meters above sea level is what the Andean condor calls a cozy home. This peculiar habitat at such a colossal altitude is responsible for the Andean condor's striking baldness, since the radiation it receives from the sun at such an altitude prevents the growth of feathers on its head. When it is not gutting carcasses or in the comfort of the Andean precipices, the condor usually travels long distances, marveling the Patagonian steppe with its flight. Just as when it feeds, when it takes to the skies, the condor prefers to let nature do most of the work, so it usually glides, taking advantage of the strong wind currents coming from the Andes. In fact, outside of takeoff, the condor does not usually flap its wings, so rather than flying, it prefers to fall in style. Although the rest of the species that inhabit Patagonia do not like the idea that a bird is prowling from the heights, with intentions of devouring them when their inevitable end comes. The truth is that the Patagonian ecosystem is grateful for the Andean condor's work as a professional cleaner. By quickly disposing of the bodies of the fallen, the condor avoids the putrefaction of the corpses, preventing the formation of bacterial cultures, which could seriously affect the health of the animal species. In this way, in addition to satiating its appetite, the condor contributes its grain of sand for the preservation of the diverse Patagonian ecosystem. Since Patagonia will be home to this bird for perhaps the next 50 years, the Andean condor is concerned with keeping every space on the plains free of animal remains. And if this guarantees an infinite supply of meat, so much the better. At the same time that the Andean condor shows off its flamboyant flight in the plains, being a flightless bird does not prevent Magellanic penguins from having their own private beach in the Atlantic. On the east coast of Patagonia, where the Andes Mountains are no obstacle, Magellanic penguins, also known as Patagonian penguins, are making their triumphal entry. The word seems to be out that winter has come to an end, ushering in the abundance of spring. But Magellanic penguins have swum up to 6,000 kilometers from the north with only one mission: to breed. Having migrated north during the fall, these majestic flightless birds return to their breeding beaches with intentions of enlarging the family. The first to arrive on the beach are the males who, as good providers as soon as they set foot on dry land, will look for a nest where the female will lay her eggs. Like the maras, Patagonian penguins believe in true love, being monogamous, and having one partner for life. With the arrival of the females, it is time for the males to pull out their tricks to impress them, preening and squawking. Although the males are the ones who take the initiative, the females are the ones who choose the future father of their chicks. When the courtship works, and the female says yes, copulation takes place, which they will perform several times during the spring. For penguins, love is in the air. The fruit of this love produces between 1 and 2 eggs, which the female lays in the relative safety of the nest. A small excavation chosen by the male penguin, often close to the sea, and surrounded by vegetation for protection. Although the female is the one who lays the eggs, the male proves that the female has not made a mistake in her choice, actively participating by hatching the eggs. While the eggs remain in the care of the devoted father, the female dives into the lively Atlantic waters to feed. After laying, she will need to recover her energy. When entering open waters, the penguins reveal the reason for their peculiar appearance, as if they were always wearing an elegant tuxedo. The grayish-black plumage of the back blends in perfectly with the dark waters for predators watching from above, while their white torso blends in with the brightness of the surface for creatures watching from the depths. And speaking of depths, in their dives in search of food, penguins are able to go up to 76 meters below the surface, catching rich sardines, anchovies, squid, and krill. Penguins, never better said, like fish in water, demonstrate their incredible swimming skills, reaching speeds of up to 24 kilometers per hour. Thanks to their aerodynamic body shape, with webbed feet and long flippers. With the female returning to dry land much livelier after a nutritious meal. It is the male's turn to forage for sustenance. Although given their innate abilities in the water, penguins seem unreachable, the truth is that countless predators dream of a plate of Patagonian penguin on their table. So, on these small feeding trips, they must be careful. Sea lions, leopard seals, and orcas are on the prowl. Fortunately, the future father of the chicks, after a delightful expedition into the deep, returns to the nest, where he is reunited with his growing family. While it is true that in the comfort of their nest penguins are out of reach of the ferocious orca, in Patagonia, there is no 100% safe place, especially when you are a bird of no more than 75 centimeters tall and 3 kilograms, guarding succulent eggs. Many land predators have heard the news of the return of Patagonian penguins to the beaches and know that this means free food for many. Birds, such as the southern gull or the Antarctic pigeon, are always on the lookout for the penguins' nests in search of the protein-rich eggs. The more careless parents who leave the nest may find themselves with the unpleasant surprise of their future chicks lying in the stomachs of these unexpected visitors, as well as terrestrial species such as foxes and armadillos. After 42 long days of incubation, the chicks hatch and get their first glimpse of their family. Of course, the hatching of the chicks does not mean that parenthood is over for the couple, as they now have the added task of feeding their offspring. For this, the plan is quick, simple, and somewhat unpleasant, as the parents will regurgitate some of the food they have found at the bottom of the sea, giving a small souvenir to their offspring. After approximately 3 months of strenuous care by the couple, the babies are ready to leave the nest and fend for themselves. With enough practice at sea, and at the end of the breeding season, what until recently were tender chicks will embark on a journey of thousands of kilometers to the north with the entire colony. While the journey the Patagonian penguins will make will be full of challenges, one thing they will not miss about their stay in Patagonia is being at the mercy of the largest predator in this ecosystem. Hidden among the abundant vegetation, almost invisible thanks to its camouflaged fur, the puma is the nightmare of any wild species on the Patagonian steppe. With a weight of up to 90 kilograms and a length of more than 2 meters, the puma is the perfect prototype predator in this region of the world. Despite being the 4th largest feline in the world, behind only the tiger, the lion, and the jaguar, the puma's camouflage abilities allow it to disappear in the middle of nowhere, something extremely useful when you are a giant feline with a voracious appetite, looking for its next prey. The puma's hunting skills are comparable to those of the fiercest predators on the planet. With robust and strong legs, the puma is capable of jumping great distances and reaching speeds of more than 80 kilometers per hour. This great agility is complemented by a ferocious bite with teeth up to 4 centimeters long and a set of long retractable claws, which help it cling to its prey. When it comes to hunting, the puma is a complete strategist, planning every move meticulously. Having within its varied diet species such as guanacos, foxes, armadillos, maras, and rheas, the puma lies hidden among the lush vegetation. Making slow and calm movements, the puma becomes invisible, immune to any vestige of alertness that its prey may have. Watching from a distance, the feline savors the feast it knows, sooner or later, will arrive at its table. Being close enough to its prey, the puma initiates the attack with a leap of up to 6 meters, which brings any target within range of its bite. Landing on its prey, the cougar launches a bite straight to the neck and latches on using its razor-sharp claws. No matter what the prey does, its fate has already been decided by Mother Nature, to be suffocated to death by a feline weighing more than 90 kilograms. It's been a good hunt for the puma, but knowing that more than one scavenger has already gotten wind of his big trophy, the feline puts out his takeout, dragging it to a place where it's safe to start his personal feast. It's good news for the rest of the Patagonian plains that the wild puma has already met its demanding feeding quota. After this good meal, The feline is capable of going up to a week without tasting a good steak. When the puma is not terrorizing Patagonia's wildlife with its ferocity, it can usually be found resting in rocky hollows, hiding among tall grasses, or perched on a tree branch. Because yes, the puma is an excellent climber. And who isn't when you have claws up to 4 centimeters long? If in its long journeys through the Patagonian plains and forests, the puma encounters a river obstacle, it will have no problem crossing it, since the puma is a great swimmer. Although, to tell the truth, it does not like to be wet at all. For the puma, life is relatively simple in Patagonia. With an abundance of prey in the spring and thick vegetation that allows them to hide easily, the puma usually has no problems in their daily lives. When you see an imposing Patagonian puma and learn about its large felid relatives, you can probably only expect a loud roar that echoes from the Andean mountain range to the beaches recently occupied by penguins. However, the puma is not even close to being a great singer. In fact, it is not even capable of roaring, since it does not have a specialized larynx. With the vastness of Patagonia at their almost complete disposal, pumas often occupy vast territories of up to 1,000 square kilometers in the case of males. Usually, scratches on rocks and logs, as well as traces of urine and feces, are the puma's discreet signals to leave their property. As a last resort, despite not being able to roar, if a male notices that another has trespassed the boundaries of his domain, he will emit a whistle as a final warning that things could get ugly. For Patagonia's peace of mind, these confrontations are very sporadic, and the pumas prefer not to get into these clashes of titans. Although the puma can be seen as a voracious and savage predator that kills everything in its path, decimating species, the truth is that the puma's work as a professional hunter is highly necessary to protect the Patagonian ecosystem. The control exercised by this feline over the populations of guanacos, deer, hares, and small rodents ensures that there is food for all, and the vegetation can recover, maintaining its delicate balance between supply and demand for herbivores. Thus, the puma is both a tormentor and a guardian for other species. But not even the infinite appetite of the wild puma is capable of devouring one of the giants that inhabit the east coast of Patagonia. There, near the path that Magellanic penguins travel to the north, the southern right whale enjoys the summery Atlantic waters. With a length of up to 15 meters and an average weight of 47 tons, only a place as vast and full of life as Patagonia could be home to one of the largest marine animals in the world. The southern right whale is, quite simply, a wonder of nature. Its skin in shades of gray and black help it hide in the deep waters. And like the rest of the right whales, the callosities on its head easily distinguish it. A broad back and the absence of a dorsal fin is another of those characteristics that confirm the presence of this majestic marine mammal. Although the thought of a gigantic marine animal weighing dozens of tons might lead one to believe that no one is safe, the truth is that if you are not a small crustacean such as krill or copepods, you have nothing to fear. Of course, when it comes to the southern right whale, the portions are not particularly small, as only one specimen will need up to 2 tons of krill per day. Luckily, we are in summer, where the Patagonian coasts show one of their best faces, with plenty of food and wildlife in every corner. In this ecosystem where there is no lack of food, for the right whale, eating is as simple as opening its mouth. By opening its large mouth, the whale lets in huge amounts of water filled with small crustaceans and some fish. Once the food is in its mouth, the only thing left to do is to remove the water. To do this, The whale literally filters the food with the help of large plates in its mouth called baleen plates, which hold the prey and let the water out. The rest is just swallowing a delicious dish that comes from the sea to the table of the southern right whale. As you might expect, meeting a demanding quota of up to 2,000 kilograms of food daily is not a particularly quick task when you eat krill that can weigh as little as 2 grams. The key to appeasing your appetite lies in finding large schools, which allow you to eat in bulk. Although they are not especially fast in the water, swimming as fast as 5 kilometers per hour, southern right whales travel long distances in search of food. However, not everything has to be food. Nobody says that, being a gigantic mammal in the middle of the Patagonian Atlantic, you can't have fun. For this, the right whale loves to come up to the surface and show off some of its skills and tricks. One of its favorites is to bring its tail to the surface, catching the wind with it for long periods of time. When not showing off its swimming skills at the surface, the Patagonian right whale does a little socializing by chatting with other cetaceans, such as humpback whales and even dolphins. Although this leisure time is very enjoyable for the southern right whale, it should not be forgotten that it inhabits a place excessively full of wildlife. On the coasts of Patagonia, just as it seeks to feed on small prey, there are other swimmers with the intention of making them part of their menu, such as the ferocious killer whale. Easily targeted during its surface visits, the right whale sees the deep, dark waters of the Atlantic as a place to be safe. For this, it is able to dive up to 100 meters for periods of about 40 minutes. Believing that there is strength in unity, another strategy of southern right whales to stay away from the predator's menu is to group together in pods of up to 30 individuals, which makes them feel safer. Although the right whales of the Patagonian coast have a wide repertoire of grunts, groans, and low-frequency sounds, when predators are prowling around, it is best to remain silent. After escaping from predators in the water, the right whale cannot be complacent and must always remain vigilant. Threats could come from above and from a rather unexpected species. Seagull attacks can cause large wounds in the skin, up to half a meter deep, reaching down to its blubber. Mother and calf pairs are usually targeted by these hungry birds. Although diving into the depths is more than enough to avoid them, sometimes these attacks cause more than a scratch, seriously injuring the mammals. Despite some threats, the Atlantic coasts of Patagonia are an oasis full of life for southern right whales, which they will enjoy, at least until temperatures drop, and it is time to begin their migration to southern Brazil. But there is still a long way to go before summer comes to an end, so Patagonia will continue to show its friendliest face, with plains full of vegetation, plentiful lakes, and migratory species that come to enjoy this spectacle of Mother Nature. It is, quite simply, a parade of vivid colors everywhere. Precisely. Speaking of colors, there is no species that represents the colorfulness of the Patagonian fauna more than the majestic flamingos. Grouped in flocks of hundreds and even thousands, flamingos are perhaps unexpected visitors to Patagonia. But this does not prevent them from having a pleasant stay during spring and summer. The lagoons created by melting glaciers in early spring are the ideal habitat for these beautiful pink birds. These aquifers are a wellspring of life for hundreds of wildlife species, and flamingos are among the guests of honor at the party. With a height of up to 130 centimeters, long, slender legs, and very elegant plumage, flamingos are beauty expressed in one animal species. During these summer days, flocks of flamingos from the north rejoice by dipping their beaks in the water and tasting delicious crustaceans, small fish, insects, and even algae. Because yes, flamingos are omnivores. Like the giant southern right whale, flamingos feed by filtering the water they collect with their beaks. Only instead of using large baleen plates, they use their tongues to hold the food. Of course, being much smaller birds than the colossal whale, flamingos spend much less time feeding, as they only need to eat about 200 grams a day of their varied diet. Although flamingos practically adapt to whatever nature puts in their beaks, some specific foods in their diet are responsible for the color of their striking plumage. Foods such as algae, shrimp, brine fly larvae, and crustaceans are very rich in beta-carotene, a substance responsible for coloring their extravagant plumage. In general, the better a flamingo feeds, the brighter the shade of pink in its feathers, making it, for example, more desirable to females. In spite of the good weather that Patagonia can offer for these summer dates, it cannot be forgotten that flamingos are especially tropical birds. For this reason, when visiting such a southern home, they need to have certain adaptations. One of these is that, in order not to lose heat, flamingos usually rest on one leg. Since their long legs are completely devoid of feathers, these represent a major source of heat loss. So flamingos choose to do a bit of balancing to keep warmer. Likewise, the idea of wetting their feathers with ice water when it's time to sleep doesn't seem very sensible. But this does not represent the slightest problem for flamingos, as they can sleep standing up in comfort. Rested and revitalized after several restorative naps during the day, the flamingos have the energy needed to roam other areas of the lagoon, where they search for more rich crustaceans. To take flight, the flamingos take a few steps on the ground to gather strength for takeoff, and then begin to flap their wings with great speed. Flocks usually fly in a V shape to save energy by breaking air resistance. Just as they are adept in the water, maintaining their balance, and feeding themselves with whatever is within their reach, flamingos are expert aviators, being able to fly distances of up to 500 kilometers in a day, at speeds of more than 60 kilometers per hour. However, the flamingos will leave such marathon trips for when they say goodbye, at least momentarily, to Patagonia. For now, they are quite at home in these lively tributaries. Although not all members of the group make the decision to enlarge the family, some couples think it is time to bring a baby flamingo chick into the world. Flamingos have an alarmingly low reproductive rate, as they only undertake the task of raising a chick when habitat conditions are optimal. A mud nest near the lagoon will be the perfect place for incubation. Both parents will religiously participate in the incubation for approximately 32 days. After this, a small chick with gray plumage will hatch, which will be tinged with the attractive pink that is characteristic of the species for another 2 to 3 years. Of course, there is still a lot of water to run, crustaceans to devour, and miles to fly. For now, in the here and now, the majestic flamingos are packing their bags for when the summer comes to an end. While flamingos stand out for their exotic appearance, other birds are famous for their hard work pecking over and over again the trees of the endless Patagonian forests. The Magellanic woodpecker is an example of hard work in the midst of such an isolated and sometimes inhospitable place as Patagonia. At only 40 centimeters tall and weighing no more than 400 grams, the woodpecker is proof that it is not necessary to be a 40-ton mammal or a ferocious feline with large claws to make a living in the middle of the Patagonian ecosystem. The Magellanic woodpecker has a rather peculiar appearance, where the females have a pure black plumage all over their body and a whitish spot on the wings. The great and evident difference with the males is that they have a crimson-red plumage on their head and crest. Both have their main working tool, a prominent chisel-shaped beak of up to 6 centimeters. For the Magellanic woodpecker, if nature, in all its wisdom, gave you a powerful beak, you have to use it. Making the most of its tool, the woodpecker pecks up to 20 times per second, pecking up to 12,000 times in a day. The woodpecker is the worker everyone wants to have, but why does it do it? For the same reason flamingos dip their beaks in the water. Food, 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 and more food. The Magellanic woodpecker spends much of its day endlessly pecking the surface of mature trees in search of food. Although it has no predilection for one species of tree or another, those with the longest-lived wood are primarily its target. Not even the tree with the strongest bark can resist the drill that this little bird carries in its beak. Of course, the task is not as easy as it seems, for it will not always find food the first time. Sometimes the Magellanic woodpecker has to drill again and again until it finds the coveted manna. The reward for his admirable persistence is usually what are, for him, tasty morsels such as termites, ant larvae, beetle larvae, and some adult insects. As soon as it identifies that it has succeeded in the location, the woodpecker introduces its long tongue to claim its well-deserved prize. The ability to obtain food from such hidden places as the interior of trees means that the woodpecker is almost always assured of its daily sustenance. Of course, food doesn't always have to come from inside the trees. With such abundance in Patagonia, the woodpecker has no problem getting carried away by the rich supply of fruits and small vertebrates found in the wrong place at the wrong time. The Andean forests of Patagonia are home to thousands of these dedicated woodpeckers, which live in pairs or even family groups. And as communication is the key to a good relationship, Magellanic woodpeckers have a very varied repertoire of vocalizations, with which they keep in contact with each other. With the immensity of the Patagonian forest at its disposal, with no tree, no matter how tough, to resist it, the woodpecker usually builds a cozy home about 8 meters above the ground. Of course, spending all day pecking at trees and whistling in the middle of the forest is not particularly quiet. And rather than a complaint from neighbors, Magellanic woodpeckers must be wary of attracting the attention of unexpected visitors such as the very abundant and fearsome birds of prey. For Andean harriers or caranchos, the woodpecker is a good source of protein at a relatively low cost. While it is true that family groups of woodpeckers might defend themselves against raids by these raptors, especially when eggs or chicks are at stake, for solitary specimens, the story is a bit more complicated and often ends with the harrier feasting. Sometimes, however, the strategy of remaining silent pays off, and the raptors have no choice but to leave on an empty stomach. When this happens, the thick Andean forests celebrate, for one of their greatest protectors has survived another day of the woodpecker's busy life in Patagonia. By happily devouring various species of xylophagous larvae, that is, those that eat wood, the Magellanic woodpecker keeps their populations in check, preventing them from seriously affecting the forests. Thus, the same woodpecker that dedicates hours to peck trees all day long is a great ecologist that contributes to the conservation of the Patagonian ecosystem. Undoubtedly, an exemplary inhabitant of these forests. While the Magellanic woodpecker flies through the forest moving from tree to tree, hoping that the next one will be the lucky one. Deep in the plains lives another majestic Patagonian bird. However, this one cannot open its wings and fly across the skies, for it is the flightless rhea. Similar in appearance to an ostrich, the rhea is an imposing bird up to 140 centimeters tall and weighing 30 kilograms. Its long neck and spiky legs, as well as its lush plumage in shades of brown and white, make it one of the most beautiful species in all of Patagonia. The rhea usually lives quietly in numerous herds in high-altitude regions, such as the Patagonian Plateau. Here, it spends its days scavenging the ground, searching for food among the thick vegetation. The rhea's diet is mainly herbivorous, devouring cactus fruits, salt bushes, grasses, seeds, and even roots. However, if a small lizard or grasshopper crosses their path, they will not hesitate to take advantage of such a protein-rich snack. While very happy to find small reptiles and insects to incorporate into their diet, when the situation is reversed, the rheas are not amused. Being on the diet of fierce Patagonian predators like the ferocious puma is not an easy thing to deal with. The herds of rheas cannot be neglected in their foraging for food, as sometimes, without even realizing it, they become the main course. Although it shows a calm attitude most of the time, the rhea will not be an easy prey to catch. Like its African relative, when it feels threatened, the rhea will not hesitate to go into attack mode using its sharp claws. If a puma, fox, or any other predator wants a bite of the giant bird, they had better be willing to fight for it. Although fighting for their lives against voracious predators is an incredible demonstration of bravery and ferocity, for the rhea, the best battle is the one that is avoided. Being alert during their walks on the plains saves them from having a hard time, and from seeing a companion fall into the clutches of their hungry stalkers. To maintain a secure perimeter, rheas use their privileged eyesight, capable of detecting threats at very long distances, so the calculating puma will have to be very stealthy to even get close to its prey. When a predator manages to sneak close to the herd, it cannot yet claim victory, because despite not being able to fly, rheas are professional sprinters, running at up to 60 kilometers per hour. This sprint takes them away from any possible threat, and most of the time leaves the puma with nothing more than the memory of the meal it was planning to have. After getting a good scare, but escaping from ending up in the stomach of Patagonia's largest land predator, the rheas continue their leisurely strolls across the plains in search of food. Like the rhea, one of the species that knows perfectly what it feels like to be in the constant sights of the puma, a giant camelid weighing more than 90 kilograms and standing 160 centimeters tall. After the marine inhabitants, the guanaco is the largest mammal in Patagonia, with some specimens weighing up to 140 kilograms. With a dense and warm coat, the guanaco adapts perfectly to the low temperatures that Patagonia will soon bring. The cinnamon brown and white coloration of its natural coat also camouflages it very well in the desert landscapes and grasslands of the plains. Life for guanacos in Patagonia is relatively quiet, spending much of their day foraging on the ground. Living in groups of about 10 to 20 individuals, if you are a rich grass, moss, or tuber, you had better hide, as the guanacos will find you sooner or later. Thanks to its highly advanced digestive system, the guanaco is able to absorb nutrients from a wide variety of perhaps not so high-value foods, thus ensuring a good food supply. At feeding time, the guanaco chews its food, swallows it, and then regurgitates it for further chewing, ensuring that it takes advantage of even the smallest nutrient in its diet. While other inhabitants of Patagonia see the melting glaciers as a not inconsiderable source of water, the guanacos do not even turn to take a sip, as they can adequately hydrate themselves from the vegetation they consume. Lacking large claws, and with a bite that can only strike fear into the plant species of Patagonia, the guanaco must always be on the alert. When you are a calm mammal of more than 100 kilograms, many predators dream of getting their hands on such a substantial dish. To watch their backs, guanacos choose to live in groups, where cooperation is the key to survival. On average, guanacos that live in herds are larger than those that live a solitary life, as they can feed while their companions keep watch for possible threats. Like almost all of Patagonia's land mammals, the guanaco is on the radar of the relentless puma, which relishes the thought of such a prey. Guanacos living in groups usually leave it to a dominant male to warn of an approaching threat. Hearing an unmistakable whinny, guanacos know it is best to use their long legs in a very honorable retreat. Living in sparsely vegetated habitats where hiding is not an option, guanacos see speed as their only escape. Thanks to Mother Nature, these camelids can run up to 60 kilometers per hour. Although in direct combat, a guanaco has little to do against a hunting machine like the ferocious puma, there are other predators, such as the culpio fox, that want to play smart by messing with the guanacos. Against these smaller threats, the adults bring out their big paws, beating the canines to a pulp. Although the larger specimens are almost immune to the attacks of the culpio fox, sick guanacos and young calves are within reach of the bite of this Patagonian predator. After escaping a tragic end at the hands of countless predators, guanacos are able to continue their pleasant routine by roaming the vast trails of Patagonia. Thanks to their large, well-cushioned hooves, guanacos are able to traverse stony terrain, where predators are scarce and mosses are abundant. Like mountain goats, steep slopes are also no obstacle for the agile guanacos, which propel themselves using their powerful legs. Proving to be an all-terrain species, they will not have the slightest inconvenience in jumping into the water and crossing it, as they are very good swimmers. Although most of the time guanacos maintain peace among their species, the position of the dominant male in a herd is often coveted by outsiders, who will challenge his dominance. When this happens, the male will emit some spitting sounds as a warning signal. If the invader ignores the warning, the fight for the position of hierarch is inevitable, and may end with one of the two camelids seriously injured after being kicked by his adversary. The guanaco's role in the Patagonian ecosystem is crucial, for although it probably does not like it very much, it serves as a good source of food for the wild puma. Also, during their long days of grazing, they keep the vegetation under control, and even spread seeds through their feces with their long runs. Perhaps as a reward for their contribution to the ecosystem, Mother Nature has given guanacos some close relatives, right there in Patagonia. Although physically similar to guanacos, vicunas are another species that roam the plains in search of food, escaping the appetite of predators. Vicunas, like guanacos, also belong to the camelid family and share many of the customs of their relatives. However, there are some clear differences that set them apart, such as their small size, weighing only 50 kilograms and measuring 80 centimeters tall, which makes them the smallest camelids in the entire animal kingdom. Their fur is also a clear disparity with guanacos, as vicunas have a light reddish-brown coloration on their backs, with a whitish belly, and their faces have a yellowish-brownish tone. As far as their feet are concerned, Mother Nature was uncreative, giving vicunas long, slender limbs, which, like guanacos, end in well-padded pads, so that no Patagonian terrain is an obstacle. In fact, vicunas are typically able to reach higher altitude terrain than guanacos. Although in Patagonia many families come to live together in harmony, when blood ties are somewhat distant and fields full of rich grass and mosses are at stake, Vicuñas are the direct competition of guanacos. The rules are quite simple. First come, first served. Leaving aside the fact that they are smaller and not as famous as their cousins, perhaps when the cold winter days arrive in Patagonia, these small camelids will be grateful to have been born as vicuñas, because their fur is probably the finest in the entire animal kingdom, which keeps them well wrapped up, even in the most merciless winters. Where vicuñas may be somewhat envious of the more lanky guanacos is when it comes to protecting themselves from predators. Given their smaller size, vicuñas are often more affordable prey and present fewer challenges during the hunt. When pumas and guanaco foxes learn that there are herds of compact-sized camelids around, they do not hesitate to make them part of their diet. Returning to the Atlantic coast of Patagonia, the ground rumbles from a clash of giants. Two enormous beasts weighing almost 4 tons face each other in a duel to the death for the right to own a piece of beach. For the male elephant seals, gaining title to this piece of LED coastline will guarantee that, in just a few days, fertile females will arrive ready to reproduce. In these fights, which can last for hours, the imposing males beat their bodies over and over again, inflicting severe wounds on themselves. Often the most battle-experienced males have abundant scars on their necks and heads, signs of wounds left by the sharp canines of other males eager to breed. When the duel comes to an end, the loser dives into the waters, bidding farewell to the possibility of expanding his lineage, while the winning elephant seal will also dive, but to celebrate his demonstration of power and ferocity. Without straying too far from what is now his property, the male, in order to regain strength and be vigorous for when the females arrive, will fetch something to eat. In the elephant seal's menu, there is an abundance of fish and cephalopods. Of course, to maintain the body of the world's largest pinniped, eating a couple of sardines is not exactly enough. Elephant seals devour up to 2,000 fish a day, so their dives are by no means short. In fact, elephant seals spend up to 2 hours underwater stalking schools of fish, diving to depths of more than 1 kilometer. Given their large size and ferocity, elephant seals are even capable of hunting larger prey such as eels and even young sharks. With his stomach full, the elephant seal returns to the shore to make sure that no other male dares to invade his domain. If this happens, the beach will once again become a battleground for these giants. As the days go by, the females begin to flood the beach, and the victorious elephant seal excitedly watches her harem take shape. Sexual dimorphism in elephant seals is simply amazing. While the males are giants of 6 meters long and up to 4 tons in weight, the females that reach the beach barely reach a length of 3 meters and 900 kilograms in weight. Also, the absence in the females of the peculiar trunk that gives the species its name is a striking feature. But the females do not arrive alone. Most of them are 11 months pregnant from the previous breeding season, so the male must wait patiently for them to give birth and be ready to mate again. After only 5 days of their landing on the beach, the females go into labor, bringing to the world tender and not at all small babies of 32 kilograms. During the following 4 weeks, the mother elephant seal will devote herself exclusively to the care of her calf, jealously protecting it and breastfeeding it, causing the calf to quadruple its weight in such a short time, while the mother loses up to 100 kilograms because, during this period, diving into the waters in search of food is a luxury that cannot be afforded. But the male's patience has its limits, as he did not risk his life in combat just to see the females breed. As the lactation period draws to a close, the male makes his move and succeeds in impregnating most of the females that have chosen his pleasant beach property as their lair. This modus operandi of the male elephant seal guarantees him to have a very extensive lineage, bringing up to 500 offspring into the world in his lifetime. Of course, the success of being a stud among the females lies in winning the beach. After a fleeting season as mothers, elephant seals must go to sea to feed, saying goodbye to the young they have just brought into the world. They will stay here for approximately 8 weeks, during which time they will lose up to a third of their weight due to the mother's absence. After learning to swim, the young elephant seals will set sail for the deep Patagonian waters in search of adventure, where they will feed on thousands of fish and try as far as possible to avoid becoming prey to the voracious predators that plague these waters. The last to leave is the male elephant seal, who will probably return in about 11 months, where he will duel again against another male, and it will be decided whether the defending champion retains the right to mate, or a new monarch will rise on the elephant seal beach, with all the benefits that this position brings. But it is best not to count the eggs before they hatch, as the elephant seal will face countless challenges along its journey. Despite being a giant mammal that has demonstrated its ferocity on the beach, the Patagonian coast is home to the world's largest predator, and both it and the calves, which recently left the beach, are in its sights. It is an animal so voracious and wild that it is even the terror of bloodthirsty predators, such as the white shark, and it is the misnamed killer whale, the orca. The killer whale is a dolphin species of incredible proportions that inhabits both the waters of the South Pacific and the Patagonian Atlantic. With a size of up to 9 meters long and a weight of more than 4,000 kilograms, there is no species that can resist the hunting skills of this voracious dolphin. With hundreds of animals leaving the shores of Patagonia after the end of the breeding season, the waters become a feast for the savage killer whale. There is no prey that can withstand the colossal bite with teeth up to 10 centimeters long of the powerful killer whale. Not even an imposing elephant seal weighing more than 4 tons is a worthy rival for the voracious killer whale's appetite. From small fish, squid, seals, Magellanic penguins, and even right whales, virtually every species in the ocean is included in their menu. But when you are a colossal marine predator, not even the limits of the waters can stop you. The killer whales of Patagonia, after years of evolution, have learned to strand themselves in order to keep sea lion pups that are just learning to swim within bite range. The little ones, only weeks old, must learn the hard way the crudest side of wildlife. Of course, if even in the relative safety of the coast's killer, whales are able to demonstrate their power, let alone what they can do in the deep waters. Despite its mammoth size, when necessary, the killer whale can reach speeds of up to 50 kilometers per hour. This means that no matter how fast its prey is able to swim, the killer whale will always catch it. To keep every inch of the coastline under surveillance, without any possible prey escaping, killer whales swim up to 65 kilometers a day, reaching depths of more than 150 meters. But being a large predator with a powerful bite is not what places the killer whale at the top of the food chain of Patagonian marine species. It is not for nothing that killer whale pods are called the wolves of the sea. The coordination capacity that these groups of between 10 and 20 individuals have when hunting is simply amazing. If when a prey is in the sights of a solitary killer whale, its chances of survival are low. When being stalked by a whole pod, it is practically a lost fight. During the hunt, killer whales communicate with each other by emitting a wide repertoire of sounds such as whistles, grunts, and squeals. In addition, in order to never lose sight of their prey, killer whales can use their echolocation ability, which allows them to perceive the bouncing of sounds off their targets. True to their nickname, when a pod of killer whales catches up with their prey, they surround it like a pack of wolves. For killer whales, it is not enough just to devour their prey. Even more important is to send the message that they are the most powerful predators in the oceans. After long chases, in which their prey probably just want it to be over quickly, in a kind of merciless game, they beat the dying prey and throw it through the air, having fun for a while until it is time to take it into their jaws. Although killer whales show no mercy in devouring the calves of virtually all marine mammals in Patagonia, they are exemplary mothers who know firsthand the difficulties of breeding in the wild. After a successful mating season, the female orca will carry a long pregnancy of up to 18 months in her womb. After this very long period, a baby will be born who will need the mother's care and nursing for 2 years. Despite being untouchable when they reach adulthood, baby killer whales have a high infant mortality rate of up to 40%. Although other marine species are not directly responsible for their death, it seems almost a punishment from Mother Nature to killer whales for the countless victims they claim every year to satiate their endless appetite. Although killer whales are the absolute dominant species in Patagonian waters, this does not mean that they do not face significant challenges to their survival. Sadly, the greatest threat to the survival of the majestic killer whales comes not from wildlife, but from the impact of human activities on what was once a pristine ecosystem. Overfishing in some areas of the Pacific and South Atlantic are significantly decreasing the number of prey available in the orca's habitat, altering their behavior and migratory patterns. The pollution of the waters with industrial waste and collisions with fishing boats are other challenges that these giant dolphins are facing in this southern region of the continent. Just as the undisputed queen of the food chain is affected, the migratory species of the Patagonian coast, such as Magellanic penguins and elephant seals, have seen their habitat increasingly challenging for their survival in recent years. With the scarcity of marine life caused by industrial fishing, marine animals are forced to seek new migration destinations, modifying ecosystems. A special case is that of species such as the Patagonian penguins and the southern right whale, which until only a few years ago were hunted for their oil. But the challenges for wildlife in Patagonia are not limited to marine inhabitants. Industrial activities such as lithium mining severely transform water quality in the Patagonian ecosystem, affecting the reproduction of species such as the majestic flamingos, which are unable to inhabit and reproduce in what were once lively lagoons. Despite living at altitudes where human activities have little influence, the Andean condor is threatened by the poisoning of its prey. In its work to keep the Patagonian ecosystem free of waste, the condor may feed on carcasses poisoned by toxic bait, an illegal practice used against predatory species, and which ends up putting an end to what, under normal conditions, should be a long life for this scavenger bird. For guanacos, the story is not much different. The invasion of their habitat by introduced species such as sheep is a strong competitor to their grazing habits, as well as bringing new diseases. Illegal hunting is also one of the practices that are decimating the populations of these felids, with the aim of taking advantage of their meat and fur. The construction of infrastructure is also one of the risks to the lifestyle of these large mammals, as it impedes their free movement across the plains. More and more cases are reported of guanacos trapped in wire fences used to delimit agricultural areas, where, on many occasions, the outcome is fatal. Like a domino effect, as guanaco, vicuna, and rhea populations are affected, Patagonia's predators are not seeing their best days. The culpeo fox, and especially the puma, have to adapt to a new reality where prey is not as abundant as before. The puma is one of the species particularly affected by the growth of cattle ranching in the region. Cattle ranchers see them as a threat and hunt them in retaliation for the loss of their livestock, which results in many of these felines being killed or displaced from their territories. While the challenges are countless for Patagonia's wildlife, the good news is that this ecosystem has already proven itself capable of recovering, healing the wounds caused by climate change, even under the most adverse conditions. Patagonia is a place where virgin ecosystems still exist, and human influence is almost nil, so it is possible to be optimistic about the future of this region. An example of how, with targeted actions, it is possible to achieve tangible changes has been some populations of rheas. In recent years, these had been isolated by the extensive areas used for cattle ranching, almost leading to their extinction. Environmental groups have become aware of this phenomenon before it is too late for these herds, and have created the Nandu Conservation and Recovery Program, dedicated to preserving the lives of these impressive birds. Another advance in the conservation of Patagonian species is the creation of the Patagonia Wildlife Reserve, an area promoted by the Argentine government, which aims to be a refuge for the wildlife of this southern corner of the planet. Other nature reserves located in Patagonia include Torres del Paine National Park, Nahuel Huapi National Park, and Yaramilo Petrified Forest National Park. While important measures still need to be taken to protect Patagonia's wildlife and ecosystem, the creation of these areas is a good first step towards a Patagonia free from the effects of climate change. The challenges for the coming years include promoting sustainable agriculture and livestock, preserving watersheds, and reducing fires in Patagonian forests and grasslands. By making these changes a reality, Patagonia's wild inhabitants will be safe in their majestic kingdom in the south of the planet. Did you like the stories of struggle and overcoming the wildlife of Patagonia? Then don't leave without leaving your like to support our channel. You would also help us a lot in our mission to promote wildlife awareness if you share this video and subscribe. See you next time with another chapter of the indomitable wildlife.